Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanishalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. In this session, we'll be discussing from the 45th verse of the 13th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Tasmad Jahyanga Vaiklavyam Ajnana Kritamatmanaha Katham tu Anatha Kripana Varteram Stecha Mam Vina. The meaning of this 45th verse is, therefore give up your anxiety due to ignorance of the self. You are now thinking of how they, who are helpless poor creatures, will exist without you. So now Narad Muni is coming to the point that he explained in the previous verse. All feelings of separation are due to illusory affection. Then the conclusion now is being drawn after explaining the philosophy, the truth, the reality, that give up your anxiety which is due to ignorance of the self. So you are not considering the fact that you, your uncles, your aunt, and everybody for that matter is spirit soul and are controlled by, their movements are controlled by the Supreme Will according to their own past actions. And now you are thinking, even though you know that you might be aware that Supreme Lord ultimately is the controller, but you're thinking, how will they exist without your help? Because they have become old, they are helpless. That's your anxiety now. But give up that anxiety. And why he has to give up that anxiety, that he'll explain in the next verse. Narad Muni will explain the next verse to Yudhishthira. But Srila Prabhupada says, in the purport, a brief purport, when we think of our kith and kin as being helpless and dependent on us, it is all due to ignorance. Why is Prabhupada saying this? Because every living creature is allowed all protection by the order of the Supreme Lord in terms of each one's acquired position in the world. How much protection each person can have at any given time is dependent on the position in which one is placed by the Lord. And the important point is to remember always, the Lord is known as Bhuta Bhrit, means he is the one who gives protection to all living beings. He is not partial, he is impartial, and he is the only one who protects each and every living being. So therefore, understanding that there is the supreme control of the Supreme Lord and everybody is protected by the Lord, one should discharge his duties only. Does it mean the Supreme Lord is everybody's controller, so why should I bother to protect my children? Or why should I bother to give any protection to the people who are dependent on me? No, that is not correct. We have to do our duty in the position in which we are placed presently. If I am in the position of a father, I have to do father's duties towards the children. If I am in the position of a husband, I have to do husband's duty. If somebody else is in the position of a mother, such a mother has to do her duty towards her children. So everybody has to do their duties. And always remember, no one but the Supreme Lord can give protection to anyone else. You do your duties and depend on the Supreme Lord for your protection, for the protection of your children, for the protection of your beloved loved ones. Everybody, you depend on the Lord for protection. This is the perfect understanding as regards carrying out our duties and being responsible. At the same time, not thinking that we alone are in control. No, the Supreme Lord is the controller, and we have to submit to the control of the Lord, and things will go on according to the Lord's will, and which we cannot always make out how the Lord's will works in this. Now, how the Lord gives protection and how we have to simply discharge our duties explained very nicely in the next verse. The next verse, 46th verse is Kala karma gunadhino dehoyam pancha bhautikaha katham anyamstu gopayet sarpagrasto yatha param. This is a very important verse. The meaning of this verse: this gross material body made up of these 5 elements is already under the control of 3 different things. What is that? Is already under control of eternal time, that is Kala, under the control of karma or action, and under the control of guna or the 3 modes of material nature. Kala, karma, guna. Eternal time, action, and the material modes. How then can it, being already in the jaws of the serpent, protect others? Kala is also called Kala Sarpa because time brings about death. As we all know, just a question of time. Somebody may die now, somebody may die some few hours later, somebody may die few years later, somebody may die at the end of the duration of this universe, but Kala is going to ensure death for everybody. So everybody is under the clutches of Kala. So how can you avoid that particular death which is going to come? You cannot protect. Everybody is under Kala. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, the world's movements for freedom through political, economic, social and cultural propaganda can do no benefit to anyone. This so-called freedom is actually really not beneficial. Why? Because everyone is controlled by the superior power. So who can go against the supreme will of the Supreme Lord that is operating in this material world? No one can do it. A conditioned living being is under the full control of material nature. Conditioned means those who are under the laws of karma. So everyone is under the laws of karma except pure devotees who are transcendental to the laws of karma because of being directly under the Supreme Lord's internal potency, the spiritual potency, Yoga Maya. So except for them, everyone else is under the full control of material nature. Everyone else is a conditioned living being. Full control of material nature. Represented by 3 things. Control of material nature means it is represented by eternal time. It is represented by activities under the direction of the material modes of nature, which are always working in this world. So there are 3 material modes of nature, namely goodness, passion, ignorance. Goodness means the sattva guna, passion means rajoguna, ignorance means tamoguna. Unless one is situated in the mode of goodness or sattva guna, one cannot see things as they are. So Prabhupada says, the passionate and the ignorant, that means the Rajasic and Tamasic people, they cannot even see things as they are. They are unable to see this control of Kala, Karma, Guna. They cannot see, they cannot perceive, they cannot understand. Therefore, a person who is passionate and ignorant cannot direct his activities on the right path. So, Rajasic and Tamasic people, they can never be doing things right. They'll always make mistakes and they'll suffer. Only the man in the quality of goodness can help to a certain extent. So, a man in the quality of goodness can see things properly and can guide how one can actually take shelter of the Supreme Lord. Only, that is the only alternative for protection. There is no other alternative. Most persons are passionate and ignorant, and therefore their plans and projects can hardly do any good to others. So many plans are there for protection. But they don't work the way somebody desires, because the Supreme Law, the Supreme Will is ultimately going to override all our plans. Above the modes of nature is eternal time, which is called Kala, which is called Kala because it changes the shape of everything in the material world. Kala is changing everything, and that is forced change. It is not something which we can reverse or we can avoid the influence of Kala. Even if we are able to do something temporarily beneficial, time will see that the good project is frustrated in the course of time. Kala will ensure that the destruction will come at the right time. For the time being, we may say maintenance, or we may say protection, or we may say some safety, but ultimately there is no eternal safe position in this material world. No. So Srila Prabhupada says, the only thing possible to be done is to get rid of eternal time Kala, which is compared to Kala Sarpa, or the cobra snake, whose bite is always lethal. Lethal means it's going to end our life in this body. So when death comes, there is no remedy for avoiding death except Bhakti Yoga. That Prabhupada will explain. No one can be saved from the bite of a cobra. The best remedy for getting out of the clutches of cobra like Kala or its integrity, the modes of nature, is Bhakti Yoga. And this is recommended in the Bhagavad Gita in the 14th chapter, 26th verse. Mam chayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who renders pure devotional service to Krishna, unfailing in all circumstances, transcends the modes of material nature, comes to the spiritual platform. On the spiritual platform, one is immune to death and immune to the influence of Kala, Karma, Guna, everything. One's actions become completely spiritual on the spiritual platform for those who are engaged in pure devotional service. So the highest perfectional project of philanthropic activities is to engage everyone in the act of preaching Bhakti Yoga all over the world. So you should practice Bhakti Yoga, pure devotional service, and you should preach this Bhakti Yoga to people who are not aware of Bhakti Yoga. And this alone can save the people from the control of Maya or material nature, represented by Kala, Karma and Guna. So this is very, very clear. So we should practice Bhakti while doing our duties. As long as body is there, we have to do our duties. But we should mainly practice Bhakti Yoga, and in that way become free from the effect of Kala, Karma, Guna. I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.